this movie has a lot of elements in it that you wouldn't ordinarily see, I guess, in a thriller or a horror film. Because I guess of the size of the film, the budget of the film, did that allow you the freedom to sort of make the film as you wanted it to be, considering that you also co-wrote it, without a lot of notes, a lot of studio interference, and sort of give you the ability to push the envelope as far as you wanted within the film itself?
Yeah, I think to be fair with the studios, like in general, like when you hear about movies that got changed or like when they say they crushed the director's vision, that's usually the director usually has a shot at doing a movie that is their own movie, and usually Hollywood tests those films. Your director's cut usually is always getting shown, at least so far. In most budgets, you get a chance to show that movie, and if that movie reacts positively, they like it, you get a score on those tests. Usually they just let you do what you want, and at least so far my two movies always work the first time we show them, and so that's why the studio doesn't need to fix it and you get into all those fights. So maybe if people wouldn't like those crazy things you're referring to, they wouldn't be in the movie, but because at least so far I've seen it with an audience a few times, it's always exciting movie to show and see how people react to those things. And that's why I've been able to get away with those. I think if they don't work, maybe then it would be a different story. But I working also with Sam Raimi and everybody involved in this movie really allowed me to do my thing because we work on Evil Dead together and they trust me because of that.
Well, speaking of Evil Dead, you'd already worked with Jane Levy on Evil Dead. So what was it from, I guess, that experience that you took away that made her sort of the perfect fit for Rocky in this film?
She's a great actress. I mean, she's really fantastic. It's someone that when you see her on screen, you really believe every emotion she's going through. And that's, it's not easy to come across. And I found her on Evil Dead. She had made one movie at that point that was more of a comedy, a smaller role. So I was so proud of finding someone like her. So, of course, if I had the chance to work with her again like that, when we made this film, I called her right away. She said yes, I'm good friends. So it was a good adventure to have together.
I mean, does that partnership allow you to sort of, I guess, continue to beat the hell out of her through these two films? Because she is a trooper in a number of ways between Evil Dead and this. She goes through the ringer in a big way.
She does, and she does it for real. A lot of the pain and suffering moments that you've seen in the film is really Jane Levy suffering for the audience and really bleeding there for all of you guys. And she's really good that way, right? So it doesn't really allow me to do anything. I mean, it's really, I go as far as I can. I really try to put her through a true experience so that she don't have to fake a lot of those emotions. So, but she always gets pissed at me towards the end of the films. But I guess then when she looks at the film and she like it, she know it was worth it, right? That's my job, to make sure that all the suffering, it's for something, right?
One of the things I really dig about the film is the fact that there are no real heroes in this film, and there are no pure villains. For the most part, everyone's actions are justifiable. You can sort of, as an audience member, put yourself in any of their shoes and say, I get why they're doing what it is that they're doing, and because of that, the film can resonate with you on a number of levels. Where do you sort of draw, I guess, the moral line in creating those characters to sort of straddle the blurred lines, the shades of gray, in order to give complexity, but also sort of give you a rooting interest to at different times?
I mean, look, I was actually surprised when the trailer came out that people were saying like, "Oh, why would I watch this movie if they're robbers?" Like, because with that attitude, you wouldn't have watched any of the classic films that exist in this genre. Like and every Hitchcock movie, they were all bad. Like, think about Psycho. She's stealing money in the first scene. Still, you watch the movie. Strangers on a train. They're like plotting to kill the guy's wife. Still, you watch the movie. I mean, those are great classics, and the reason they were doing that is, first of all, it's always great to see people that are able to do moral things that we would like to do maybe, but we don't because we know it's wrong. So we see what would happen if you do, and but more importantly, it does give you, it does make for way better stories because it's very hard to know how it's going to end when you don't have someone that is really purely good. If you have that person, you know that person wins. Hollywood gives you the morally correct ending usually, but if you don't know who's the one that deserves to win, it's way harder, and you get engaged in the movie because you want the filmmaker to tell you who that person is. And I personally never did it so far. I never like when I have a character that's good and perfect, because I think it's been said that we really fall in love with characters because of their imperfections, right? From the first story ever told, like it's always like that. And I always believe that's why in the story of the Bible, eventually we have to bring Jesus, because God was too perfect and people were having problem liking him because he was too perfect. That's a true story. And so like, well, what about Jesus? No, boom, that guy I like. He's a human being, he suffers, he dies, that guy I like. And that's really how we behave, according to characters. When they're too perfect, then like it's hard to get connected with them, at least for me, right?
How important is it in a film like this to establish your rules early? Because very early on, you get a sense of who the characters are, what their goals are, but also moving into this basically lone setting of the film, you sort of take us on a tour through the house and lay the groundwork for everywhere we're going to go, everywhere we're going to see, everywhere we're going to be, and you stay true to those rules.
It's very important. I mean, for me, good stories do that. Like it's like a magic trick, right? Like a good magic trick usually start with me showing my sleeve. I don't have nothing here. I just have a deck of cards. And if I do something magnificent with that deck of cards, you get blown away. If in the middle of the thing, I take a box and I get a bunny out of here, you go like, well that wasn't part of the game, right? So you wouldn't be that surprised, regardless of how amazing that could be. So I think it's really important to stick to those rules. And what I really try to do in this movie in particular is just to make you a part of the film. You're not passive in this movie, right? Because as soon as I show you the house and I show you that hammer that you think you just spot in the corner, obviously I'm showing it to you, but you think like, oh, that hammer. And your brain right away trying to figure out how that's gonna come into play. Is it gonna be them that are gonna grab the hammer? Are they gonna get smashed with the hammer? And then you see the door with the lock and you wonder what's in there. And because you're anxious and you're kind of scared and nervous because of the setup, your brain really tries to solve the problem all the time. So that really makes you a more active member of the audience, and you're not just like paying half attention, because you will feel you're missing out on all those details that every few minutes I show you, right? So I think it's a good technique to keep the audience really engaged and trying to solve the mysteries that the movie, presents, right?
The film, I think, has sort of it's what I call the ride or die moment. Whereas you either push through it and go, I'm all in, or you could throw your hands up and say, too much.
And that's what I want.
How difficult was it to know how far to push it?
Well, I don't know it, because I for sure I know people that when they get to that moment you talk about, they go, I'm out. It's just too much for me. But I don't care about those people. I care about the audience that when they see that moment, they go like, I love this film. That's the audience I make the film for. I mean, there's always going to be someone that not going to like it. If I try to make a film for the world and for everybody, it's just going to be a watered down thing down the middle. And I know my audience. I try to make movies for my audience that are made of my friends in a way, and even myself, right? That the kind of stuff that I want to see in a movie theater when I go to watch a movie, particularly of this genre, right? So I don't know exactly what's the line, but I know I'm making choices in the film all the time that hopefully will alienate the certain audience, because I think this genre always did that, right? Like if you go back to, again, classics, you think when people were watching, I don't know, Psycho, and they murder her in the shower, a lot of people go like, great, beautiful film. And I'm telling you, half of the audience will just walking out and saying like, I don't want to watch this thing, right? The other half is falling in love with the film, right? And that's really what I want to do. I'd rather do that and do a polarizing film than do something that's just down the middle and kind of everybody can appreciate, right?